What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another video on the channel. And in today's video will be my round 11 tips. So let's quickly see what I got in round 10. For the first time in a while I got 7 out of 9. It wasn't the hardest round to tip, so probably should be getting a result like that. But I got Port White, good tip. Sydney White, geez, that controversy at the end was pretty insane. It felt like a dream that we got a free kick goal, 15-meter penalty in the last minute. Stuff like that normally never happens to us. And Bulldogs, oh yeah, probably should have tipped the Bulldogs, but I don't blame me for tipping Adelaide. I did think they were going to win. Geelong, I don't really blame me for tipping them either. That was very disappointing from Geelong. Fremantle looking very good at the moment. Brisbane got that right, bit disappointing from Gold Coast in the last quarter. Essendon, the fluke tip by me pays off as I get that right. What a game that was. Couldn't watch it, but looked like a cracker. Hawthorn absolutely demolished West Coast, and I think it's pretty clear that West Coast are the worst team in the competition. You can talk about injuries or whatever, but it's quite clear that they're the worst team in the competition after a result like that against Hawthorn, who were a team the previous round. Collingwood and St Kilda got those both right as well. The headlines on both of these teams, but to be fair, it's probably mainly on Carlton here. They desperately need to win. Sydney, of course, you know, in some ways they were lucky to beat North Melbourne. If it wasn't for that interchange free kick, they probably would be sitting on 3 wins and 7 losses. And in that case, you could probably just about write off your season completely. I wouldn't even back us in to make finals at all. But now, we're only 1 win outside the A, and Carlton, if they win this game, they're going to go to 7th, depending on results. But still, it's kind of crazy to think, everyone talking about how bad Carlton are playing, but if they win this game, and let's just say a couple of teams ahead of them lose, they could be 8th or 7th on the ladder, which is extraordinary for how much people have been talking about how bad they are. And same with Sydney, well, they can only be percentage outside the top 8, but still, a lot of stakes on the line. I can easily see Carlton getting to like a 30 plus point lead. And the main concern is with the Swans defence, of course, having their 3 main defenders out who are brilliant. They have no real tall defenders. I'm assuming Francis is going to have to go on Mackay or Kerner, but I don't know who on earth will go on the other. So that's a bit of a concern. It's just going to be the battle of the midfield here. I reckon whichever midfield can get on top will win the game. And I actually reckon the Swans midfield will get on top here. They've been not good all year, but I have a feeling despite all their injuries that Sydney will win this game by 8 points in an absolute thriller. And then St Kilda and Hawthorn at Marvel Stadium. I was just about to say this is an easy game to tip, but I forgot that Hawthorn just won by 115 points or whatever the margin was. So that was crazy again, but I guess it was against West Coast. But still, St Kilda surviving a very good test from the Giants. And of course Hawthorn, they just had an outstanding performance against West Coast. Look, even though Hawthorn will probably go into this game with a lot of confidence, it's hard to go past St Kilda here. I reckon they'll win this game by 22 points. And then at the MCG, who would have thought this would actually be an interesting game to watch? Melbourne versus Fremantle. Fremantle in some absolute killer form. They look so good compared to how they were just a couple of weeks ago, man. It's crazy how they've turned their season around in these last couple of games. And it just goes to prove that if you have a good win against a quality opposition, it can really change your season and just completely change everything. That's exactly what it's done to Fremantle. They look like they're in a very good place at the moment. And Melbourne, of course, disappointed against Port. Port kind of just stopped and they got themselves with a 3-goal lead, but then they couldn't do anything after that, and Port just came back, and Port were just the better team all day if you think about it, and played a really good performance against them. But they need to bounce back here, and it's hard to tip Fremantle here as much as I want to tip them. I'm going to tip Melbourne to win this game in an absolute thriller by 5 points. And then Geelong versus Giants. Geelong with 2 losses in a row. They're actually sitting 5-5 at the moment. Only 1 win ahead of those other teams below them that are not doing too good. So they desperately need to win this game and to stay in touch with the top 4, of course. And the Giants were very impressive against St Kilda for a bit of that match, but then it just seems like they got outclassed in the end. I would be very shocked if Geelong lose this game. I'm going to say Geelong will win this game by 35 points. And then Gold Coast versus the Western Bulldogs. This is again a extremely tough game to tip. Bulldogs very impressive against Adelaide. They just played a killer game. Didn't watch a second of it, but it just looks like they dominated from the first bounce to the last bounce. And Gold Coast disappointed in the Q clash to just fall asleep in the last quarter and let Brisbane smash them when the margin was probably only a few goals before that. I'm going to go for an upset here. Bulldogs will probably be favourites, but I'm going to back in the other team against them again. I'm going to say Gold Coast win this game by 6 points in a thriller. And then moving on to Optus Stadium, Essendon looking to get in the top 8 after their killer win against Richmond by 1 point with just 5 seconds or 7 seconds left on the clock. West Coast very disappointed. They need to respond here. If they want their home fans to continue to come in numbers, they're going to have to put together a better performance than what they did against Hawthorn. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they get smashed here, and I reckon they will. I reckon Essendon will win this game by 52 points. Richmond versus Port Adelaide at the MCG. Richmond were leading against Essendon for pretty much the whole night until the end, so they will be a bit flat after that loss. And Port Adelaide, well, there's nothing to be flat about from them. They're just in absolutely amazing form. They just find a way to beat every team. It's like they force the match into a scrap, and then they just get the game completely on their terms, and it feels like the opposition can do absolutely nothing. And yeah, I'm going to back in Port here. They just seem to bring it anywhere. It doesn't matter where they're playing. I reckon they'll win this game by 9 points in a very close match. And then Collingwood versus North Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. If you tip North Melbourne here, you'll basically be a millionaire. Let's just be honest. North Melbourne probably don't have a chance against Collingwood, who are the best team in the competition. However, you do have to give North Melbourne a lot of credit. They played really well against Sydney. They were able to stick with them when Sydney kept on jumping them, and they got like a 15-point lead like a few times, and they just came back and stormed home in the last quarter. At least it looked like that. But then Sydney came back, and of course that interchange free kick gave the Bloods the win. But yeah, the amount of effort and fight they've shown, that's what they've got to bring every week, and they'll be very competitive North. They'll only lose by about 20 points max. But I reckon Collingwood are far too good here and will win this game by 36 points. So I reckon North will challenge them at times, but ultimately Collingwood will be way too strong. And then Adelaide versus Brisbane at Adelaide Oval. Very interesting game to tip here. Adelaide, very disappointing against the Bulldogs. However, they tend to bring the heat at Adelaide Oval, so I wouldn't write them off here. They maybe just lost a bit of confidence. And Brisbane, on the other hand, very impressive against Gold Coast. It just looked like they were always that one step ahead of Gold Coast, and in the last quarter they managed to storm home and win by a thumping 7+ goals. This game's got me thinking a bit. It's got me thinking a lot. You know what, screw it. I'm going to go for the home team here. I'm going to say Adelaide bounce back and win this game by 9 points. However, I'm not that confident with this tip and could change it, but for now, I'm going to say Adelaide bring the heat and win this game by 9 points. And there you go, guys. Those are my round 11 tips. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a big fat thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for another upload. Goodbye.